What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Tyler Perry's Sistas. This is season 5, episode 9. Y'all, let's jump right on into it. So, Danny is still shaken up because we already know she's telling Andy what happened with Jonah. So, she's crying. She's super emotional. And she tells Andy, I killed him. I killed this guy named Jonah. And then she goes into the details of how he spit on her, he attacked her, all those things. So at one point, Fatima ends up coming back into the room, and Andy's like, okay, it's cool for her to stay. And once Fatima finds out what happened, she's like, oh no, he can go ahead and die. She did not care at that point. But she does end up, using her resources and trying to call and see if there was any deaths reported or, where this guy may be. Of course, it took a few minutes and a few phone calls, and Fatima finds out that this boy is in, I think, critical condition or whatever. So he's still breathing. He's still alive. Danny did not kill anyone. I said at least Tyler did not write for her, to have killed someone, because I feel like that's heavy. That's like real heavy for Danny to be dealing with. So here's the crazy thing about this is that Andy finally, put her lawyer hat on at one point in this conversation, because Fatima was like, oh, this was all self-defense, but Andy had to tell her, like, no, this is not self-defense. Once she went outside and grabbed a bat or whatever, a pipe or whatever it was she had, and started hitting him, and then hitting him with her car. And I was like, okay, look at Andy being smart. Actually, I stand corrected. I just realized I said he was in critical condition. When Fatima came back, she said that man only had some broken ribs and that he had fell off of a motorcycle or something. And that got me thinking. I'm like, who's also on a motorcycle? Let me find out Karen Mama has something to do with this. Because remember, y'all, when the guy was at Karen's house or whatever, and then her mom and her motorcycle had done something? Just saying. Now, one thing that I was kind of here for was when Fatima was like, just say the word and this guy will be gone, because you don't disrespect nobody and spit in their face, okay? And it was kind of funny because you have Andy like, no, while Danny is like, yep, it's word, he can go ahead and die, basically. Now, y'all, within this next part, I was kind of surprised because Andy was really sounding like a lawyer when she was like, you don't get to almost get 25 years to life and then just walk out of my office. And I was just like, oh, okay. So now you're about to put Danny in check. And she basically tells Danny that, she is running away from all of her issues that she needs to handle. She also lets her know that she needs to talk to Preston. And she basically tells Danny that she's hurting and that she wants to hurt Preston, but all this hurting is not going to help her, heal at all. Now, here's the thing. This right here, great message and all that, wrong messenger. wrong messenger, okay? Because Andy, of all people, of all the castmates, shouldn't have been the one to try to give this information, okay? But I will say this. When it comes to Danny's character, has she been running? I would say yes. She's been running from her true feelings. Does she actually want to be with Preston? Yes. But at the same time, her pride is definitely an issue. But Preston also has some things that do not align with Danny and how she moves as a woman. Let's call a thing here. Preston is not, 100% right all the time. I mean, I used to be a fan of Preston, but ever since this whole Misty situation, or Mindy, whatever her name is, I have not been feeling Preston, because that whole storyline came out of nowhere, and he basically made it seem like Danny was second fiddle. But whatever. So, besides that, though, I feel like Danny has had all types of issues that we have not addressed, okay? Honestly, each one of these girls need to be seeing a therapist, but that's something that Tyler refuses to write. He refuses to have these girls go to therapy, especially, Karen. Karen should have been in therapy since whatever season spawned offed herself. That's how long ago she should have been in therapy. Now, when it comes to Danny, I think that she has an issue with men, period. Because it wasn't just Preston that she had a problem with. She had a problem with El Fuego. She had an issue with, was it the FBI guy? Like, she has had multiple issues with different men. So I think we need to address that problem before we throw this all on, oh, but you want to be with Preston. You want to be with Preston. Like, I feel like there's so much more that we could actually see in like some growth with these characters. But Tyler refuses to give us that because everything revolves around a man. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and talk about what Danny felt about Andy saying all of this. Because let's be honest, Andy poured it on thick, especially once she was like, I've been hurt before. I understand hurt, blase, blase, blah. And Danny's like, well, isn't that funny? Because you're still messing around with Gary. So how can you tell me anything when you're consistently going back to a man who has dogged you? Like, let's be honest. Gary has dogged Andy, okay? To the point where all of her assets were frozen. Y'all remember that? She was getting into it with his ex-wife. He kidnapped you and made you think that he was going to, make you stay in some house miles and miles away from the city. He put his hands on your ribs to the point where you could not breathe. Like, Gary has done some crazy things to Andy, yet she continues to go back. And I think it's hilarious that when Danny mentions, like, well, what about you? Oh, Andy didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to have no questions about it. She wanted to say her statement for Danny to do what she said to do, which is call Preston. But we can't ask Andy about her life. Oh, okay, girl. Now, here's where we get a little bit of honesty from Andy, where she basically says that she keeps Gary around to keep him calm and to stop him from suing her. Now, what's crazy is this is where we really see Andy's true colors, though, because you're a successful lawyer. You had your own place or whatever. Now, I don't know if she actually sold her place or if she just said that she did. Who knows? But here's what's crazy to me. You just became so materialistic within this last how many ever weeks that you've had this penthouse. Like, you literally will not let Gary go because he will potentially sue you for the things that he paid for. Do you hear how crazy that sounds? If you are really done with him and all the things that he has done to you and all of that stuff, the materialistic stuff would not matter. You would not want that penthouse. You would not want the car. You would not want the bags and the shoes and whatever other materialistic things that Gary has gotten you. Like, it's crazy to me that she really said that with a straight face. Like, girl, let's not forget that you just came into some big money not too long ago. You haven't had to spend that. You're not hurting for money. So let's be honest here. And then for her to basically say that she's about to land a big client and she doesn't want to have any like drama of, her being sued being out there. I'm like, okay, Andy, you're just making excuses at this point. And then for us to circle around, her actually hooking up with Gary and her reasonings because she wanted to and also because he's never been bad in bed. I said, well, girl, what are we here for? Like, as tired as we are of Gary and Andy, I don't see that ending anytime soon, y'all. So I guess we just need to buckle up for the ride. Anywho, so Fatima ends up coming back in. She has pulled this guy's record. Come to find out he has multiple assaults against women on his record. So that's when they realized that's probably why he did not report it to the police, because he has a history of doing this. Andy lets Danny know that she's going to see Sabrina at 5:00 and for her to meet up with her. Because, Danny now has to go to work. Oh, and I did laugh at the last part when Danny was like, keep Fatima around because she's fast, unlike you. Because as we know, her and Andy had multiple conversations of nothingness because Andy could not get in touch with Sabrina or even get information on Sabrina. But let's go ahead and move on because that scene was pretty long. Okay, so we get this scene with Zach. He is carrying some groceries into the house, and Deja is outside. Now, Deja is attempting to help him with these bags, and yeah, that was quite annoying. I'm just like, girl, how you gonna in the same breath say you not trying to mess with him, you ain't trying to do nothing with him, but you over here trying to help him with these bags? Make it make sense, girl. Basically, this whole scene was for her to warn him about Fatima and her family and how Fatima's cousin, Madam, she's like this big boss, and how Fatima comes from a line of killers and dillers, as she called it. And that was pretty much the whole point of this scene. How Zach needs to meet his girl's relatives. Also, what's funny to me is that she mentioned the engagement, though. She was like, oh, are you guys still engaged? Because, sometimes Fatima wears her ring and sometimes she doesn't. So I'm just like, oh, so I guess now it's supposed to make sense that they've crossed over and Fatima is now engaged to Zach on Sistas, even though she doesn't wear a ring. And also on top of that, she hasn't let anybody know that she's engaged. Let's see when Andy and the girls actually find that information out. Alright, y'all, so we went from one ridiculous scene to one that's extremely dry. Here we go with Karen and Aaron. He has shown them to her house. Why are they both wearing stripes? Here's the thing. I'm so annoyed with Aaron popping up because, again, I keep saying Aaron needs to go find somebody else. Aaron needs to go find a woman that wants him because it's not Karen. But nonetheless, he has showed up. He has brought food over. According to him, he's going to rub her feet. Her friends don't do it like he does. And he's basically there to stay because he done brought a damn overnight bag. Now, Karen finally brings it up to him, that she knows that he got the information that she was in the hospital from his doctor friend because she mentioned that Pam was going to schedule her an appointment. And I'm like, wait a second. Why is Pam scheduling your appointment for the doctor? Like, I know she works at the salon and all that, but she ain't your personal assistant. What's happening here? And what's crazier to me is the fact that when she even brought up the fact that, I know that your doctor friend is the one who told you, he was like, oh, okay, I understand. Like, not I'm never going to do it again or anything like that. Like, Fatima got cursed out again for no reason. How many times have I said that in these reviews, y'all? That Fatima literally got cursed out for nothing. And she still hasn't got an apology for it. And like I've been saying, she needs an apology from both of them because that was completely out of line. But let's hop back into this scene because, of course, she wants this man to leave. Like, that never fails. Karen always wants Aaron to leave, but he ends up staying. And she's like, okay, so what are we going to do? And he's like, so do you want to have dinner? Keep in mind, he brought in like a bag of groceries with some ice cream and who knows what else or whatever. And she's like, let's talk about last night. As we already know, that's where the whole conversation happened. So now she wants to have a face-to-face conversation with Aaron and probably see what he's thinking. Well, he didn't have no thoughts because according to him, it's him and her and they good pretty much. Like, he had nothing to say about all that went down the previous night. And so now she's seeing that as like a red flag, right? So she comes up with this thing about how she read an article about, you really know a person through their phone, basically trying to see if she can go through his phone, right? And I'm just like, that's the best you can come up with? Okay, whatever works for you, Karen. But here's the crazy part. So Aaron pulls his phone out and then he ends up Googling, I guess, this article and like reads it for himself. I said, what is this? Tyler, what is this? I feel like this transition could have been a lot better. Because he wants to go make dinner. Only thing Karen wants to do is look through his phone. I'm like, okay, next scene. So we get over to Danny, right? She's at work. And she decides that she's going to call Preston. So she calls Preston. I'm just like, oh gosh, here we go. So he's in the car, he's driving. I said, how many scenes have we got of Preston in a car driving? But nonetheless, they actually agree to meet up. And she tells him to come to her house, but he has to meet her outside. I guess now she's no longer trusting men to come into her house, which I completely understand. And he agrees and that he's going to come meet her. He's going to drive there, and we shall see what happens within that conversation. They get off the phone, and I must say, I really hope that when she does talk to Preston, that they both have an open and honest conversation where they're both able to express how they feel, as well as understand what the other person is saying and where that person is coming from. That's the best that I can hope for Danny and Preston. And hopefully we get a little bit more backstory on him and that other chick that he was going to go see. Nonetheless, here comes Q in the scene, and I'm already annoyed. So he trying to come over there and talk to Danny. Danny is not here for it today. She tells him to, step away. Not today. Go somewhere else. Y'all, this is when I said, Tyler, you guys to get the on. Because this makes absolutely no sense. When I say no sense, I mean no sense. Why? Of all the people that can be sitting at the airport, Jonah is there with one crutch, and he's waiting and staring at Danny. Y'all, when I tell you, I was so pissed off when I was looking at my TV screen, because there's no way that this man has gotten cleared out of the hospital so that way he can go pop up on Danny while she's at work. Are you kidding me? He should be laid up somewhere. Like, Tyler, I understand that you consistently try to put a rush on your storylines, but you could have waited at least a solid 3-4 episodes from now for this man to pop up on her like this. Let's make it make sense. Then you have Q, who's like, nah, I don't like the way he stared at you. Like, is there like a plane coming right now? Like, why is he here? And Danny is trying to shoo him away. Now, here's what's crazy to me. Why did Q go over there and threaten him with his ankle monitor? I said, I've never in my life seen anybody threaten somebody with an ankle monitor. He said, you see this ankle monitor? I've been waiting to try to get fired or something like that. I said, what is this? Tyler, stop writing. Tyler, call somebody else to do your writing. Because this whole scene, pure foolishness. But here's the thing. Come to find out, his son is supposed to be on this plane. Regardless of his son being on this plane or not, y'all, how is Jonah here? Like, ain't no way. The way she was hitting him with that metal, was it pipe or pole, whatever that was, she hit him multiple times in the head, okay? Not only that, what's crazy to me, he ain't got not a one bruise on him. She busted out all his windows. He ain't got no shards of glass that cut him with all that glass that was flying. Then, let's not forget that she rammed her car into his. Keep in mind, she said she hit him and hit him and hit him. Which means that she put her fucking car in reverse multiple times and rammed it into his car. Now, you gonna sit up here and play with me talking about all he got is some hurt ribs and he still had time to go to the airport to pick up his son? Tyler, get on. Please step away from the writer. Step away from the writer's room because you're frustrating me. Nonetheless, you have Q talk about how he trying to get fired. And she's like, why would you try to get fired? Who even says that? He's like, because he can't quit the job, but he has to get fired from the job. I said, sir, you another one that can just go. I'm so sick of Q. Like, you know what? Why am I getting worked up? This ain't even, This ain't even worth it. Let me go ahead and move on. All right, let's hop on over to Andy. She ends up having a conversation with Karen, and Karen is telling her how she is going through Aaron's phone right now. And unfortunately, she's not finding anything. Like, there's no, women in his phone. There's no crazy pictures. There's nothing in his phone that is standing out to her. So she's like, there has to be something wrong. She is waiting for the other shoe to drop with Aaron. And Andy is like, no, you just want something to be wrong with him. Just go with the flow, right? So then they start talking about the conversation that happened the night before. Now, according to Andy, that was her cue to get off the phone. And Karen is like, okay, fine, but y'all coming over to my house. And of course, she thinks that all of the ladies are showing up. But we know Sabrina ain't gonna be there. So she's like, Sabrina, she hasn't been answering my calls. And the way that Andy tends to avoid this situation is she jumps off the phone with Karen. Because she doesn't want to be the person that says Sabrina is in jail. But I'm like, at some point, you're going to have to tell her. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, so now we see Fatima. She's on her way out the door, as well as Andy. So Andy says she's going, to go see Sabrina. And Fatima's like, oh, I just forgot something. I'm about to head out. See you tomorrow, girl. So next thing you know, she looks over, and who do we see? Heather, y'all. Again, here we go with the Zatima crossovers. Honestly, if anybody has not watched Zatima, I kind of feel sorry for you because you probably don't know who half of these new faces are. And Heather is the stripper who supposedly messed around with Zach and had his baby. Now, she comes in, she's about to meet her lawyer, and Fatima's like, who is your lawyer? Why are you here? What's going on? Next thing you know, Hayden shows up. Now, this is supposed to be their first time meeting, supposedly. This is why I'm saying supposedly. And that's because she was like, yeah, you saw the results from the DNA test. And I'm like, wait a second. How does she know that Fatima even did a DNA test? Because when we last saw Fatima snuck and took the baby's DNA. And then she gave the baby back to his mama, sent them on their way. So the only people who saw those results was the person at the lab and Fatima. So make sense. But nonetheless, she over here talking about Hayden, how you spell that? The girl couldn't even spell Hayden. She supposedly walked off to his office. Whatever. So we basically find out that according to Hayden, that Heather is dating somebody in Chainbreakers, and basically they referred her to him to be her lawyer because of her baby daddy drama. And like Fatima said, you're not even a family attorney. What are you doing? According to him, he's going to be whatever lawyer that he needs to be so Zach can go to jail. That's his whole goal. And that's where we pretty much left off with that scene. Now let's jump on over to Andy and Danny. Now, I don't know who gave Danny these glasses. I don't know if they were to make her look smarter. I don't know what was happening there. But they are trying to see Sabrina, of course. Okay, so Andy has decided that Danny is going to be her paralegal or whatever. And they wait until, Sabrina comes in. She comes in. Sabrina is looking puppy dog sad. And she has a fro. Last time we saw Sabrina, she had locks. But they were telling her that she needed to take her hair out. And this is the first time that they're even seeing each other. And I can't lie. I was a bit underwhelmed by their reactions, because I thought somebody would be teary-eyed or something, because when they asked Sabrina oh, how are you, she's not good. It's just not good. I'm I feel there should have been some more emotion in that. I don't know, maybe it's me, but here's the thing. This girl still does not know why she's even in jail. So Andy is dragging it out, and she basically lets her know that, Q, she doesn't say his name, but the guy who was with Maurice, he had a recording where Maurice said that it was those two who decided to rob the bank. And, of course that makes Sabrina very upset because, like, let's be honest, she had nothing to do with that. Even with the way Maurice, included her in it, like, she had nothing to do with this. So she's like, just don't tell my mom because, like, she would literally die. And I'm just like, the sucky part about all of this is that even if she was to, come out clean from this, she still wouldn't be able to probably get her job back at the bank. Like, ain't nobody about to hire her from that. Like, she would have to come up with a whole new career. So Andy is over here promising that, they're going to get her out of there. They're going to get her out of there. But here's what got me was the fact that she's like, well, what about your boss, Robin? Like, didn't he do something for Zach and Fatima? And I'm just like, dang, did she even know that? Like, just out of curiosity, like, I don't remember Andy even telling the girls that, but maybe she did. Who knows? And, we already know the situation with Robin is complicated because he basically saw Andy as being a needy person who always needed favors, which was technically true. And, we still have a rocky relationship with Robin right now because him and Andy are not saying eye to eye. So you already know Sabrina is really stressing out. She's getting a bit hype. And next thing you know, some white man walks in the door. So this man, he tells Andy, like, you don't recognize me, do you? She's like, no. And come to find out, she represented him. No, she did not represent him. I'm sorry. She represented his wife in their divorce battle. Because y'all remember, Andy is a divorce lawyer. And she represented the wife. And he was like, yeah, that was before I became a prosecutor. I can't lie. My mouth dropped. I said, okay, Tyler, you got me right there. I did not expect this at all. So he ends up telling Andy, like, oh, well, you know what, let's have a conversation outside. When I tell you this conversation did not go in Andy's favor at all, it did not. Because he basically let her know, like, oh, you represented my wife. Now I have to pay her all this alimony. And as he's talking about this, Andy's like, well, I thought we were going to talk about Sabrina. He's like, listen, this lady got a whole boyfriend that she refuses to marry because that would cut off my alimony. Now, I will say this. That is pretty messed up. Because I remember watching a show called Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce. And one of the ladies on there, she had met this guy, ended up marrying him. And then she realized her life was over because she could no longer live the lifestyle that her alimony from her ex-husband was affording her. Now, that was a good show. If y'all ever see that, I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, that was a good show. But nonetheless, it's interesting how many people, they will refuse to get married again because the alimony will cut off. Like, that's crazy to me. But back to this, he also lets her know that, he knows that they're friends. He knows that Andy is Sabrina's friend. He knows that she's a divorce attorney, so how is she even here? And he also lets her know that he talked to the judge and Sabrina ain't getting out. Now Andy is like, no, we can talk about this. She didn't do this. She's innocent. He don't care, okay? According to him, he about to get her arrested because Andy is impersonating a criminal lawyer. So he knows that she's not a real lawyer as far as, a criminal case. And he also knows that Danny ain't no paralegal. So for both of them to get up out of there. And he also tells her that, again, Sabrina's not getting out because he wants to give her 30 years. 30 years, y'all. That's crazy. But that was the episode. Let me know what y'all thought about this episode. For me, I thought that this episode was better than a lot of the other episodes that have been happening this season. But again, let me know what y'all think. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I will talk to y'all in the next review. Bye, guys.